everybody. I am sorry that I am not able to do a proper live today because, as I said, and I told you the last Sunday, that I'm in a pretty big bind and I'm struggling to get things done. And right now it's patching walls and trying to paint. And I realized I'm definitely not going to be able to finish. So what I have to look forward to is to find a place to rent and move. So there's that. And because I don't think the house will pass proper appraisal tomorrow. But that's it. I mean, we all have to suffer the consequences of our actions. So excuses or no excuses, that happened. I chose that. I live with it. So let's get over my woes and see what questions do you have about polymer clay and resin. And while we wait for a few more people to come and get more questions, I am going to answer to some that I've already gotten and I am getting all the time. One of them is, how can you put UV resin over clay and then you bake it? Doesn't that destroy the resin? Well, it depends on the resin, because you definitely cannot do that with 2 parts resin, and I would not recommend you doing that with any other resin than the Chinese UV resin. I mean, any other brand. I know for a fact that the American brands do yellow out when they are baked. But one thing that you need to think, I know it's not the same thing, but you have to think, if you've worked with Chinese UV resin, you know that it does heat up when it gets cured in the UV lamp. So it is pretty resistant to up to a certain degree, in heat. And I've been doing this for several years, and I can tell you that nothing that I've done 2 or 3 years ago has yellowed out or clouded or anything. And why do I do that? Is because if you have done that on regular clay that has already been baked, especially if it's a little bit thinner, but it happens even on the thicker setting on the pasta machine, all this UV resin has the tendency to self-dome. I mean that it will start pulling on the edges, and you might end up with your pieces spooning. Not in the sense of, we sleep spooned like that, but becoming like a little spoon, because the resin has pulled on the edges. And the polymer clay, most good quality polymer clay, is fairly flexible, so it will go like this, like a little ball. And I did show you in a couple of my tutorials how to remedy when that happens. But the idea is, why should you have to remedy when you can prevent it to start with? And also because once the piece is baked, you get all that shiny thing from the baking. Why do I keep this here? All that shiny thing from your baking tile. But the thing is that you can, once it's baked, the resin is cured, and you can put stuff on the back of it. There is no more, deforming the clay. So you can safely put up your piece on whatever baking type of tile you like. And after that, you put on the resin, you bake, and then you remove it from the baking tile. You put whatever backing you want on it, or if you don't want any backing, I suggest you do a slight sanding on it, and there's that. You have a beautiful piece. And the other reason why I use resin on, and that is during my lives, and that is especially for mica powders and metallic clays and stuff like that, because even if it's not exactly how it would look when it's done and it's sanded and buffed, it is very close to how it will look once it is baked and sanded and buffed. So I just want you to not to have to wait for it to bake and me keeping you just telling you stories and then look at how it looks like, but be able to see it right away how it would look like. Now, another question that I've been getting is, you keep saying that we can make our own metallics and pearlescents, but I don't know how much to use. Well, and I explained it before, different powders will need different amounts, and I cannot give you a one size fits all thing, but it is very easy to see because you have that mica shift line. So you start with plain translucent clay, and then you have your mica powder that you want to put in it. Hi, Anna. Good to see you. Then you put your mica powder in it, and then you keep kneading, and however you do it. If you do it, I prefer to do the rolling, and I do a roll and then I flatten it in length, and then I do a roll like this, and then I flatten it in length. And when you start getting, whenever you fold it, and at the end of the fold you start getting the mica shift line, that's when you're done. And you can even test a little bit, get a little piece of it and get it through the machine until you get the mica sheen, and then do a little bit of mica shift on it. Just do an impression of a stamp or something and see how well it looks. Be careful not to use too much. When do you know that you've used too much? Is when your clay will start being a little bit crumbly, and it will be crumbly even if you use some clay softener. When it gets like that, just add a little bit more translucent to it. Then another very frequent question I get is, everybody talks about, and I'm sure that you've seen this in lots and lots of other places, what should I varnish and what shouldn't I varnish? Because how is my stuff going to hold? Well, for one, first of all, it depends what you're doing. Because if you're making a light switch plate, personally, even if I use wax or acrylic or whatever on it, I would still varnish it, just because it gets so much, interaction with the human hand, so it will rub off no matter what you put, unless you put a varnish on there. There are things that need to be varnished and things that don't need to be varnished. And by varnished, I mean coated, so that they will be protected, because otherwise, just from the slightest rubbing, they can just get rubbed off. And pretty much most acrylic paints don't really need to be coated, because as they bake, they bond into the polymer clay. The same goes for, when it comes to mica powders, the same goes for perfect pearls, that bonds. But any other type of mica powders, I would definitely varnish them. The same goes for chalk pastels. Okay, the fourth most frequent question I get is, I got all my clay conditioned for a project, but I don't have time to do it. It's getting late, and I don't have time to do it today. If I do it tomorrow, do I need to condition the clay again? The quick answer is yes, you do. Because even if you've left your clay for just a couple hours, it will still start to separate. Because, as I explained before, clay is a plastisol. That means that it's made to make the things very, very simple. Imagine that you have little balls, those would be the PVC molecules, and that are floating in a type of gel-like thing. And these PVC molecules, they are like little kids who like to play with each other. So when they are left alone, they will slowly start to migrate through that gel, that is the whatever plasticizer the manufacturer makes. And they all start clumping together, like little kids that start hugging each other. And the more the clay sits, the more that will happen. You'll just get little clumps of these PVC molecules here and there with clear gel around them. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to observe this with the naked eye. It happens at the microscopic level, but that means that if you use the clay unconditioned, because what do you do by conditioning? You just keep mixing and separating these little bubbles. If you bake the clay unconditioned or not conditioned enough, it will have fractures. It will be very easy to break. And why does that happen? Because when you bake the clay, those little PVC bubbles, they start absorbing that gel-like thing, plasticizer, and they grow. And they grow until they meet with another PVC bubble and another PVC bubble and so on until they form a completely solid surface. But if those little PVC bubbles are too far from each other and they are too agglomerating, there will be two things that will happen that will make your piece easy to break. One will be the area where there were none of these little PVC bubbles, there was only gel. And again, think that this happens at a microscopic level, you cannot see it. So there will be just like areas in all that surface that will have nothing, that will be like little voids. And on the other hand, there will be other areas where you had a group of these PVC bubbles, and the ones in the middle had no way to be able to get to the gel and absorb it and start swelling so they can unite with their friends. So you have 2 points that are sensitive and will break easily. Your piece will break easily if your polymer clay is not conditioned. So yes, even if you leave the clay for just a couple hours, you will still have not as much, just go a couple times through the machine. Because as I said, these things take a while to get together, and the longer you leave it, the longer time they have to go together and start hugging each other and leaving that gel alone by itself. So again, it is necessary to recondition your polymer clay. Yes, even if you leave it in cling wrap, even if you leave it in cellophane, it doesn't matter, because the cling wrap and the cellophane, what they do, they simply avoid that plasticizer. They stop it from evaporating, Because yes, it does evaporate. It takes a while, it takes a long time, but it does evaporate. But being wrapped in cling wrap has absolutely no effect on what happens inside the clay. Okay, so in the meantime, you can post your questions, whatever questions you have, in the chat, and I will be able to answer. Then one of the questions that I've been getting is what type of brush, and again, there are questions that I've answered before most of the time. What kind of brush should I get for my for varnishing? And I've explained before that the best type to get, so that you don't get streaks and you don't get air bubbles, is what's called in painter's world a mop brush. That's especially done for used for watercolor. A mop brush looks like this. And what does it do? As it says, as the name says, it absorbs a lot of stuff, and this is why it is used in watercolor. And thus it allows you, hi Christina, thus it allows you to, it kind of releases it in a very uniform, even stream, I don't know how to call it otherwise, so that you will not have, and again, I have to underline this, get a good quality paintbrush for this, because that is very, very important. If you can find a squirrel brush, that would be the best. The artificial mink works too, and artificial squirrel if you are vegan and don't want to any harm, no animals were harmed. But do not just get any cheapo brush, because in the long run you will thank me. I'm not talking about buying necessarily a $100 or $200 paintbrush, because real good quality painting supplies are expensive. But if you look in my Amazon influencer store, I have put, and this is stuff that I buy for myself, I have put there some paintbrushes that are good quality and are not prohibitively expensive. So this is something that you do not want to be stingy on. Okay, just a second so I can and my other problem is that I do get apparently my channel has gotten super big, and I'm talking by about the number of videos on it. And I know I'm probably nearing about 1,200 by now. So even if I tried to organize my videos in playlists and stuff, sometimes people still have problems finding something. And also on some devices, YouTube search doesn't work very good. So I'm going to answer here. Another type of question I'm getting is, I don't have a lot of money. What type of stuff to bake things on can I get? And I do have, it's pretty old, it's 5 years ago, tutorial that I made about baking blanks. That is pretty much how they are called. That stuff that you put polymer clay to be baked on. And you'll see there that you can use all kinds of things. And I would actually, even if you have a ton of baking blanks and a ton of expensive stuff, sometime go a little bit out of the beaten path, because Yeah, maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we didn't have that much stuff, as much stuff as we have now. But there are only so many techniques, right? Even if now and then somebody still comes up with a new idea, most of the basic techniques are well established, and then they are the most well established textures, stamps, cutters, you name it. So willy-nilly, it will at one point, everybody's work will kind of start looking like everybody's else. And don't get me wrong, I mean, that's not necessarily bad, especially if you are a vendor at a local open air market or whatever. Or if you have a shop online, especially because I'm kind of being the devil's advocate here. I'm trying to make both points. On one hand, stuff that is very original, if it is very original and very professional and very blah blah blah, will be much higher priced than the regular stuff. On the other hand, it takes longer. You kind of have to be well established already to be able to sell pieces higher than what people are used to. And also, you have to think about the market. There will be way more people willing and able to pay a lower amount of money on something than people willing and able to pay a higher amount of money on some things. And the other thing is that you have to also be aware of the fact that most of the polymer clay market is not super young, okay? Because we have the teens and the very young people, depending on their social background and financial background, they will not buy polymer clay. They are not much into homemade stuff. There's one viral thing after another. So they'll buy stuff mostly, and especially with all the Chinese counterfeits and Chinese copying everything. They just want to be shiny and be different while at the same time trying to follow a fashion trend that requires everybody to look the same. I know it's a complete oxymoron, but you've been young, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So the polymer clay market, I'm talking about consumers, not artists. I'm talking about people who would want to buy your stuff. Will be more towards, I would say, over 35, in their 40s. And the main thing that you have to think about here is that and I'm not exaggerating, about 40% of the people that are over 40 do not go out as much as they used to before the pandemic. So it's just that people just realize that being home and doing stuff home, it's maybe more fun, or they don't want to take the trouble to go out. And unless they have a stay-at-home job that requires them to be face-to-face with customers or clients, they just don't go out. And if they don't go out, they don't need all kinds of trinkets to wear. So in this respect, the polymer clay market went a little bit downhill. But and this was something, I know I'm going like this to answer that question. You might want to do some other things, not just jewelry. because there are a lot of subcultures that like to decorate their house, and there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. I mean, from fridge magnet to light switch plates to you name it, even phone holders, decorated mugs, all kinds of things. And I'm talking about making stuff, not making tutorials to make stuff. Okay. So, to get back to that question, hold on, I'm going back on my train of thought because I have this tendency to just go. I almost said something, but I said no politics or religion on my channel. All right, so we're talking about selling out, we started with the baking blanks. And I said, try to get a little bit out of your comfort zone. Don't, because with everybody having the same textures, the same clay, the same cutters, the same everything, if you want to stand out a little bit, try to get out of it. I mean, again, don't get me wrong, it's perfectly okay to do several pieces at the same time that are easier to make because you're selling at the market, because you're selling online, because that's still the only thing you can do. But if you want to be a little bit more special, try to find different things. Try to, okay, if somebody has a round pendant and you want to make something that is also round and might have the same texture, okay, you change the colors or you use the same colors and a different texture, but you absolutely want it to look different. Then you get a spoon and you get that round on the kind of like 2/3 of the spoon up, so that round will be kind of like this, so it will show differently. That's what I'm trying to say. So try to use a not non-normal, but try to get outside of the beaten path, and you'll see that tutorial that I linked there shows you a lot of things that you can use as baking blanks. And you can also make your own cutters, which is a little bit more difficult. Or you can use just simple templates. And I explained before how to make your own templates that will not fall apart because you use paper. Just get some. You can go buy some greeting card paper or use old greeting cards, really. And all you have to do is to design your template and then varnish it. Because once you varnish it, number one, it will not, and varnish it on both sides, of course, varnish one side, let it dry, turn it on the other side, let it dry. And that way it will not smudge, it will not fall apart, and it will last for quite some time so you can use it, right? So, among the people who are here, is anybody who wants to ask anything that I could answer? And I'm going to give you a few minutes. I am having to, in the meantime, I'm going to tell you I'm going to have to try and find a foster home for at least Seamus, if not Seamus and Connor. Because most places have a limit on the number of pets you can have. I'm not too worried about it, but it's still a little sad. So there is that. I guess nobody has any questions. I answered the ones that I got before now. So I was glad that I was able to jump just a little bit to still be with you before the new year, but I promise you we will have a new year longer session, and I'll have one for just subscribers, and then I'll have one for members as well. I'm still trying to push something before the year is over, because I don't want to start the year with unfinished stuff. Even if I will start the year with unfinished stuff, I'm a mess. I'm gonna tell you honestly, I'm on the edge of a total meltdown. Things I made, oh gosh, did you see my tutorials? I made a lot of things. I have hundreds of things. There, something I made. Can you see it? It's a bangle. It's not finished. I need to put the... Hold on, I don't have both lights here. Just a second. There we go. Let's make it a little bit less. There you go. Now you can see it better. Something I made. Here, this is an earring that needs the ear wire. And this is, I'm trying to get the... But if you go through my, as I said, I have I'm nearing 1200 video tutorials, so if you go through them you can see a lot of stuff that I made. When it comes to finish, Sharon, the stuff that I like the most, and I think I said that before, is sanding and buffing. Well, of course, when it comes to... Oh, you're talking about waxes. Well, it depends. This is what one of my friends who used to get exceptionally, in the meantime she passed. May God rest her soul. But she was getting so frustrated because she would ask me all kinds of things about polymer clay, and every single time she was asking me something, my answer was, depends. Oh, you're making your own air dry clay out of flour and water and stuff, right? Yeah. So it depends, Sharon. It depends if you have you're trying to imitate metal, or if you're trying to get certain effects. So the basics that I would go for metal, you know that out of all the waxes and acrylics and all kinds of stuff, I prefer the Art Alchemy of Prima Marketing. Actually, I'm not sure if Prima Marketing is still their thing. But I know that the wax is still being sold. And out of that, I would consider in the metallic line the old silver, obviously, for silver imitation, aged brass for gold imitation, and fire ruby for copper. You can also use the copper rich, but it's entirely up to you. And when it comes to special effects, I would get everything that's in the Opal Magic line. Not everything, anything that's in the Opal Magic line. And also I would go for something that has more special effects, like the what is a mint? Hold on a second, let me look in my influencer store. Give me just a second, because I need to look for it. Okay, so if we go to my influencer store and we look for waxes, did I click this? I did, but it doesn't show. Oh, it doesn't show because this. There we go. If we go to my influencer store and we look for the waxes, let me find the waxes here. This is red amber. You can get it as well. It's not bad. Okay, so it would be, I think this is the one for greens. That's the best. Yeah, mint sparkle is absolutely fabulous. It's actually a light green with a gold, beautiful gold thing. Then it would be the peacock. I'm not sure if it's this one or the other one. No, this is the Mystic Turquoise. The peacock blue is absolutely... No, this is old denim. Go away! Shoo! And this is... Blue Lagoon, no. The peacock, it is fabulous. But this is the Opal Magic that I was talking about. You can get the royal robes, blue velvet. I am not, let's go back here. I used to like the gilder's wax, but I am not. I think that the Art Alchemy is better just because with the Gilder's paste wax, I had some bloopers. And that is, I had, oh, hold on, I got the wrong one on. I got the, it happened not just one time, it happened several times. I did exactly like they recommended, I covered it, I allowed it to, and a couple of times I did it on purpose because I wanted to see if there was something wrong, I left it for 24 hours to cure, and still when I went to buff it, half of it went off, so I had to redo it, and I had to do it like 3 times, while that never happened with the Art Alchemy wax. Whenever I put it on, I wait half an hour, more than the 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes they recommend. I wait for half an hour, and then I buff it with my little chamois that you see in all my tutorials. And everything is great. I do not like the Inca Gold, which is practically just a very thick acrylic paint pigment. I'm not crazy about it. I think it's very gloopy. I don't know, it makes things look smeared. Okay. I personally did not find anything yet for metallic that would look better than Art Alchemy wax. Now, when it comes to other looks, not metal, not full metal, number one, I would still recommend Art Alchemy waxes, but of course you can use, my most favorite would be the Art Alchemy waxes, but also and I'm talking about when you use silk screens, when you use all kinds of special effects, mixed media on polymer clay. I like as you probably noticed, I love the color shift acrylic paint. Sometimes I do the waxing before baking and after, just to make sure that it gets really, really strong on there. But you don't really need to. When I do that, is when I wax before baking, honestly, is whenever I have very intricate textured bezels or pieces that I have to put on my main piece, and waxing it, especially with my hands, because you know I have those little twitches in my hands, might mean that I might contaminate with wax another area of the piece that doesn't need to have that wax on. So I first wax whatever I need to put on there. I wait for 10 minutes and then I put it on and then I bake. So that way I know that I'm not going to do any kind of smudges, and also it will still be waxed and it will be able to be buffed and all that. But yes, you can wax before, but whenever it's not about this kind of small pieces, I also like to wax after. And then again, if you're doing metal, I always recommend, if you can, to buff it before you start before you wax it. Don't sand it, and especially on, obviously, if you have textures and stuff, but go ahead and buff it, because what it will do, it will make all that surface shinier. So whenever you apply the wax, it will be shinier, trust me. It will look way more like metal. But when we are talking about a piece that's just plain, you know, be it metallic, pearlescent, or regular clay, I always prefer sanding and buffing myself. I'm not very much into, I mean, I know that resining it's much easier and all that, but I personally prefer the old method of sanding and buffing, especially with that modified pedicure wand. Things are so much easier when you try to buff. And especially when it comes to for gemstones, it's not waxing clay, it's the action of applying wax on clay. When making for gemstones, you always want to sand and buff. And always remember, you start with a very low grit because you want to first remove any kind of imperfections, and then all the following grits that are higher and higher, all they do is to remove the scratches from the previous lower grit until you get, and I usually get, depending on the piece and depending on the clay as well, I usually go anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500. Okay, Misty, I do recommend that you look on my channel on the basic. I have several playlists there, and those would be, let me show here just a little bit. So for beginners, I do have this sanding and buffing polymer clay, and then you can see that some of them, they are by how the level of expertise of the person. So some of them are personal and they won't show for you. But you see, I have like basic canes and basic techniques and basic polymer clay techniques, as you can see here. So yeah, I would recommend that you go check those And then you know. Did you leave it long enough? How long did you leave it on? She might have a very... Hold on, how did the wax come off on her skin? Did you apply the wax where it would come in contact with the skin? Because normally these are applied on the face of the piece, not on the back. But she must have a very acidic things. Very acidic sweat. I've never heard of that before, honestly. I've never had that complaint. The wax coming off on the skin. I would say, well, just to be on the safe side, to varnish also the back of the pieces you make, because there's no reason why the front of the piece would come off on her skin. The back might, but make sure that you let it sit for at least half an hour. And otherwise, I don't know. I've never heard of that. I'm very honest now. I've never heard of that. I've never had any of my pieces being having that result on anybody. But you know, there's people and people. I don't know what to say, honestly. What color was the border? Which of the Art Alchemy waxes was it? Do you remember? As I said, I've done these many times, and I've loved it. So the first time I started on them must be like 7 years ago. Yeah, probably very high acidic skin. I would just apply some a varnish on the back. And remember, the easiest varnish to apply is the Minwax water-based Minwax. That's the cheapest, and one small can of it is going to last you years. I'm not exaggerating. I got one. The last one I got was 8 years ago, and I still have more than half of that. You know, those tiny cans that you get at Lowe's or Home Depot? Yeah. So easily. So yeah, if you want when it comes to colors, to get back to Sharon's question, again, I told you what would be the essentials in metallics, what would be the essentials in colored. Again, I would go for the Opal Magic line, just to enhance some blacks and whites. But I would go for the colored ones. I would go for something green, for something blue, and for something purple. Minwax should be fine with humidity. It's water-based. Shouldn't have an issue for the humidity. Seamus is here again. He's driving me nuts. The house is all messed up, and I think I told you before, he's a very needy, I don't know how to call it otherwise. He's a very needy little boy who was taken too early from his mama. Not my fault. Told you I found him and Connor at my door. And he still has some kittenish things, and he meows like a kitten, not like a grown cat. So yeah, the house is a mess, so he is stressed, so he comes here for comfort. Hold on, let me grab him. Are you fat? Are you chubby? Oh, come here. He's a chubbers. Look at this face. Look at this face. He's a very mama's boy. Yeah, your mama's boy. And he meows like a kitten. Okay, you can go now. He's like, but mama. Yeah, I don't even want to try and get Finnegan. Finnegan's probably going to. Yeah, he's a very handsome boy. But he's a chubbers. I don't even know how he can be so chubby. Because he doesn't eat a lot. I was worried a little bit because with all this thing around the house, he did throw up a couple times. Hi, Cheryl. And welcome. So, is there anything else, Sharon, that you want more clarification on? When it comes to seal screens, oh, I wish I could send him to you. I would send him to you in a heartbeat. When it comes to seal screens and whatchamacallit, stencils, I personally prefer the powders because it allows to do way more. I don't think I have one here. Remember, I intended to do a destash, but with all this crap happening, I didn't have time to finish. Let me see if I have any of the ones that are made with powders here. Because in my opinion, the powders have a better, they're more versatile and you can obtain more effects with them. I think I don't have any here. I might all be in the kitchen on the sanding table. I was looking for this. I have all kinds of pieces all over the place. Actually, let me try and get this. These are pieces made during a regular live, and no, I want to do something else. I want to do this and get this nicely focused. Okay, and let's go to there we go. So see, this is just a simple effect, but this is not done with, it's done with acrylics. I'm trying to find the, this is just Mokumodane. I'm trying to find a piece that this was done with. This was done with waxes. This is the Opal Magic Wax you were asking about, Misty. See all this color here? That's like an oil slick. This is Opal Magic Wax. That it shows prettier on black and white. Yeah, this is one with powders, with mixed powders. See, it's not acrylic. It's using two different stencils on the same piece. Two different stencils with, I think there's like 2 or 3 colors here. It's not wax for candles, it's a special wax for gilding. And you apply it on polymer clay and then you let it harden and then you buff it with a cloth. This is not, I'm still trying to find another one. No, this is not. And see, another thing, like on this one here I used perfect pearls, and I did not varnish it because this doesn't need varnishing. This is acrylic. These are various variations from, I think they're all from sponsors' lives. That's another one with that style, but this one is made actually to look like cracked ceramic. What do you mean, dry design made from the clay so light? I don't understand what you mean. That's another cracked ceramic piece. These are not. I might have to go and grab a few things from the kitchen. This is just a mukmegane. Let me guess, you're trying to make 4 gemstones and you cannot pass them for real because they are too light? It's plastic. That's why polymer clay is light, because it's plastic, it's PVC. Okay, that's another. I broke something. That's another sponsors thing. Hold on, I don't think we have enough color here. There we go. This is better. Okay, so this is powders. This is mica powders. And it's mica powders with a oh god, it was with a pen. Why would you want to add weight to them? That sounds counterproductive, to add weight to them. This is also, give me just a second. Okay, sorry for that. I found a few. So this is the one. This is the same one, but it's before I applied the edging. You can see how it looks like. And these are what I was trying to tell you, and I showed you with this and the other ones, but you can do superimposed stuff with powders. And I resin these because it's Perlex and also black diamond interference. But you can see how you can do all kinds of superimposed effects, and as you move the piece, it will sometimes one of the designs come up, and the next time the other design comes up. So sometimes one of the designs is almost unnoticeable until it gets to a specific angle. But I know I made this to show how different the same thing can look on different. So this was practically an inversed, just an inversed Skinner blend, with the darker part here and the lighter part here and the darker part here and the lighter part here. They're not the same colors, but you can do the same colors. So, okay. Any other questions? Because I'm pretty much ready to move to other stuff. This is, let me show you how this looks when it's shiny, because I have it on shiny. I have one shined up. This is a Mokumegane in the glass effect. Hold on. Let me find it. There we go. So it's the same, almost the same thing. This is made with shavings of this. So even if this one is not really finished sanding and buffing, you can still see all the prettiness on this. I think this is from a sponsor live. Anyway, if nobody has any other, I sell my items when I do so-called pistaches, when I get, because I make so many tutorials that I have a lot of stuff accumulating. So from time to time I do sell them in little packages of several. And I was getting ready to, I was hoping to do one of those sales for Christmas, but unfortunately fate didn't want me to. So okay, so anybody else has another question? Because if not, I will see you all on New Year's Day, and we'll have a good regular live broadcast. Okay? Thank you so much for being here with me. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, and don't forget to comment after the live is over and it's uploaded. If you have any other questions, post them down there and I'll try to, in comments, and I'll try to answer with the next live. Okay? So wish me luck tomorrow, and there's that. Wish me luck in general. Let's hope I go past all these problems successfully. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening and the last 2 days of the year. Thank you. Have a good day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ask your questions. And happy claying. Bye.